In this session, we will focus on some common errors that you may come across while working with Excel. To begin with, we have the hash div0 error, also what we call as just the div0 error, and then we have the ref error, hash ref error, and then we also have the hash value error or the value error, and then there is also the NA error. Now, before we dig into these errors and try to understand why and how they occur and how do we fix them, it would be great if we have some case or an example in hand so that we can better understand how these work. So let us consider this case of a bakery that manufactures some products such as bread, pastries, muffins, cookies, donuts. And then we also have some more information about daily production. Now this would be in terms of units. And then we also have something called as production hours. So to begin with, bread, we have 500 units produced every day and 300 units of pastries, muffins 500 units, cookies it's 1500 units, and then we also have donuts, and that's 300 units every day. Production hours, it takes 25 hours to manufacture 500 units, and that makes me wonder how many units are manufactured every hour. So meanwhile, let me also put this average units per hour. And also I would like to know what is the average monthly production. So I say average, in short I type monthly production. Again, in brackets I type units that I'm referring to over here. Units, close the bracket. And here I'll replace the word average with just short form AVG just to save the space. And let's say we'll select this and wrap text. And this is not good. Let me expand this slightly. Daily production units. We have this perfect. Production hours. Now average units spent or average units per hour. And then the average monthly production. We have everything in 2 lines and I make them look bold. Perfect. Now let me make this look like a table here. So I apply all borders. We are good to go. Now I would like to know the average units per hour. So how do we calculate that? We take the daily production units and divide it by the total time it takes to manufacture that much or to produce that much. So that's 25 hours. We divide it and we get this. Now I know that this formula will work successfully for all the other products as well. So let me just drag this formula down and say, wait, what is this error here? So what do we see here? A series of div0 errors? Well, the formula is correct. I have some number over here, the production units, and I divide it by hours or the time it takes. That's perfect. That's exactly what we did earlier. Now, although this is a blank cell, but still the linking is correct. It could have given me a 0 or at least leave it blank until then. But Excel is giving me hash div0 error. But let me check this out. The moment I enter the number 30 over here, that means 30 hours to manufacture 300 units of pastries, and I hit enter. So that means the formula is working perfectly fine, but just because we do not have any data over here, it returns an error message, or rather more of an alert. So that's absolutely normal, and the moment someone enters the data over here, this will work perfect. Now just imagine if this were to be a template and you leave these cells blank and give it to someone and just tell them enter the numbers and you will get the result. Well, at first glance, anyone would feel perplexed just looking at this set of errors. it would appear as if you have done a shoddy job or you have not done your job properly. So it would be really embarrassing, and I would like this to be fixed. Maybe if there is no data over here, either leave this result as blank, just show a blank, or at least put a 0 here, but at least I do not want to see an error here and leave me embarrassed. So in Excel, we have a function called if_error, and that can help us fix this. So let me double click. We have this entire function. I would encapsulate this within the if_error function, and this will bail you out. You have this entire expression here. Excel will run this expression, and the moment if it were to return any of these errors, then it comes to the if_error function, and if_error function will execute anything that you specify in this section, that is value if_error. You want to leave this blank, then you can just put double quotes here, 2 double quotes, and close the bracket. It's blank. Well, in case if you do not want double quotes and you want this to be 0, that's absolutely fine. Just put a 0 and hit enter, and that still works. Let's copy this down over here. I would just drag this down and great. Now this does not look like an error, but still it indicates that the number is not, it's still 0 because we did not enter anything. The moment I enter, let's say 25 here, we get the right number. And the moment, let's say I put 1, well, you see, it works. What if I put in -1 or -1? It still returns an answer, but definitely not an error or not even a 0. So let's see, now we enter 30, 20, 15, and 10. We have this ready, and if I were to wipe this out, we have all zeros over here, so that's perfect. And this is how we can handle the hash div0 error, or just what we say, the div0 error. So every time you get this, do not worry, just check what exactly went wrong. If you see this error, that means definitely of the 2 fractions that you're dividing, the numerator of the 2 values that you have referred in your fraction over here or your expression, the denominator, the red cell here in this case, might be either blank or 0, and that's the reason it's causing this error. So now let us find out the monthly production, average monthly production, and on an average we have 30 days in a month. That's on an average. I know that there are a few months which have 30 days and some months with 31 days, and not to forget about February, which has 29 days on every leap year, but generally have just 28 days. But here at a very macro level, we are assuming 30 days in a month, and so days in month. We have 30 days in a month, right? So let's try this out. We have 500 units every day. I multiply this with 30 and we have this result. Now in one of the earlier sessions, I mentioned about the importance of using the $sign for row reference for any of your references. So here we want this reference to change, but we do not want the red cell reference to change. They should be pointing to this. So I hit enter, and I can just copy, paste it here, and select these cells and just paste it at one shot. Done. So we have them. Let's test it out. Yes, that's perfect. All right, so we have this ready and it seems to be presentable, but I want the days in month to appear over here. So I'll just copy this and paste it here. Now I do not want 30 twice. Now that's kind of duplicacy, so let's remove this. I'll remove this here. I will right click and just click on delete. Shift cells left, cells up, row, or anything. So I do not want to delete the entire row or entire column. It's okay if I shift cells up because there is nothing going wrong below this. No other tables or data will be impacted. Well, if that's the case, if anything gets impacted from below, you might want to consider shift cells left. That means the cells on the right may shift towards the left for this particular and replace the one that we are deleting. So I click on OK. And take a look at this. We have a hash ref error. Why? We have 30 over here. I had just copied it, right? But I did not cut and paste it. I just copied it over here, and that's where it went wrong. Because here, before I deleted it, let me show you. I'll undo this. Before I were to delete this, I double click and see everything was referring to this 30 and not this 30. Now just imagine you're working on massive set of data and you would have had similar repetition somewhere, and you accidentally delete the one which has been frequently used in formulas. Or maybe there are some formulas which you have this 30 being referred, and in some other formulas we have another 30 being referred, again for the same purpose. Then whichever ones you delete, you will get some cells with hash ref error. How do you fix this? First, take a look at this. If I were to normally delete this with the delete key on the keyboard, nothing would have happened. It would have just given you a 0 over here because this is blank. But what I did was, I did not clear the cell, but rather I right clicked on this and selected delete. And what happens? Let me show you an example. Let's say I type here some random text like test1, and here I type another text as test2. Now let me show you what exactly happens. If I were to right click on this, click delete, I say shift cells up. The moment I select this, test2 will shift up. That means the existence of this cell highlighted in green, that's number 30, will be lost. And hash ref error comes up whenever you refer to something that no longer exists either on the worksheet, neither on the worksheet, nor on the entire workbook. That means it could be lost. And that's the reason why you get the hash ref error. So be very careful whenever you try to delete something. Feel free to use the delete key on the keyboard, but if you were to use right click and delete, please make a careful note. You have the options over here to delete the entire row or entire column, or even let's say if I were to delete this entire row, we have that option here, right click and delete it. Similarly, we can delete the column. But if there are any functions or any formulas that are dependent on data in this column, then they might return the hash ref error. So, well, lucky you, we do have the undo option over here, but there is something more to it. What if you refer to something that is not on this worksheet but somewhere else? I have another worksheet over here and I type days in year. For example, I type days in year and enter 365. Now this belongs to a different worksheet and I want everything to be visible on this. So how will I refer to that? I can say days in year and link to that cell, something that is there on another worksheet, and perfect, that works perfectly fine. And we have this. Take a look at the formula. It says sheet 2, under that you have D2, that is where it's referring to. So under D2 we have this here. Now just imagine if you're working on many data sets and you find this redundant. We also have days in year here, over here, and we also have it over here. And you forgot that you had linked this particular number. You did not manually enter it over here, but this was linked to sheet 2. Now it does not make sense to have an entire worksheet just for this one set of data over here, or just the days in year. We might as well put it here, right? But we forgot that we had referred it from the sheet. So hastily, I right click on this and select delete. Now be careful. Last time when you deleted it, or deleted a cell, it did not give you any alert, but this time Microsoft Excel is giving you an alert. Microsoft Excel will permanently delete this sheet. So do you want to continue? If I click on delete, this sheet will go out and I will not have the undo option. Let me show you. I click on delete. I get the hash ref error. Why? It is referring to a worksheet which no longer exists, and within that worksheet it's D2 that I'm looking at. But how do I spot where this D2 is? The worksheet is gone, hence I get the href error. And now do I have an option to undo? No. Ctrl Z as in zebra will not work either. So this is one thing that you should be very careful about whenever you need to delete a worksheet. Ensure before that you save all your data, and then if you want to delete a worksheet, feel free to do that, right click and delete. But in case if you delete a wrong worksheet or you need it back again, then just close the Excel file. Do not save anything after that. For example, if I were to close this, so let's say I'm closing this window, Excel will ask me, do you want to save this? I should select don't save, and once I click on this, the file won't be saved. The state of the file or the state of data in the Excel file will be the same as you would have last saved, which was before you deleted the worksheet. So whichever worksheet you would have deleted before that, they will come back or they will remain as it is, because after deleting a worksheet you did not save it, and that's the best thing to do. Well, again, if you have a href error and it is obvious and you cannot skip that, we have the if error function to help you with that. Now let's say I have, instead of 1500 units of, the bakery has a capacity to manufacture a lot more. Let's say that's around 150,000. Now imagine I'm sitting in India and I'm doing this by using commas. I enter this, so instead of millions, now this appears in the form of lakhs. So it's 1,50,000. That's as per the Indian format. Okay, but it's not in millions. And if I were to manually enter this and I forget to put the commas in the right place and I hit enter, well, you see, I get a hash value error. Why did I get this? Excel failed to recognize this as a number because the system on which I'm working understands millions and billions. It does not understand lakhs and crores or any other format. So the number has to be in the form of millions, or else just simple plain number and it will work. See? Well, now if I were to put it in the form of millions, here it's $150,000. Let's put another zero and test it out. So it's 1.5 million cookies. You see, that works perfectly. But if by any chance, since I'm not aware of this and I accidentally make this look in a format of lakhs, I get a hash value error because Excel fails to recognize this as a number. And notice the difference. Earlier, when Excel was able to recognize this as a number, by default it's aligned towards the right. And now it fails to read it as a number. Excel treats this as a text, and here it is. Now, why did we get value error? The value error is because we tried to multiply a number with something which Excel thinks is a text and not a number. And that is where all the goof up. So be careful about applying commas in the format. The safest way would be to just put a comma before the last three zeros, or for the thousand separator, the first thousand separator, and let Excel automatically decide based on the region in which your Excel is formatted. If you are in US or any other country, probably it would take mostly in millions. But if you are sitting in India and the local systems do not understand millions, the Excel in that computer will automatically convert this millions to lakhs as per the local format. Let Excel do the conversion. We do not need to worry about what will the other person see this as. You just need to enter the number and ensure that Excel reads it as a number, and Excel will take care of the rest. But that's where the hash value error comes up. It is when Excel fails to determine any value that you're multiplying with. Okay, you're multiplying, adding, subtraction, any mathematical or arithmetical operation that you perform, let's say addition. You see, it gives you a value error because this is recognized as a number, but this is not a number. At times, you might also get this error when, even though you do not have anything over here, let's say this is blank. In some systems, if they are formatted that way, Excel might by default consider a blank cell as a text format cell. And even in that case, it might give you a hash value error over here. So in this system, while you see a blank cell is considered to be 0, hence Excel does not return an error. Maybe your computer or any other computer that you might be working possibly might consider this as a blank text cell or text formatted cell. As a result, since you are now multiplying a number with a text formatted cell, it will give you the same hash value error. So at that time, all you need to do is just apply a 0 over here and it will take care of itself. Well, in case if you see a number which is properly formatted but still it gives you an error, let me undo this first. And if it is properly formatted but still it gives you an error over here, just expand the column and see where is it aligned to. For example, this one, when I had formatted as lax, it aligned to left. The moment I see a date or a time, or even a number aligned towards the left, and I do not see any of these alignments highlighted, you can automatically consider this as an error and try to fix this format. By default, it should come towards the right. So the moment I change this, remove one comma, Excel read it in the right format and it automatically shifted towards the right. And that's the best way how to fix the hash value error. This is the most common error and people often just get confused with this. Apart from the formatting, let me undo this again. Apart from the formatting, you might come across this hash value errors even while using certain functions like SUMIFs, not the SUMIF, but SUMIFs, and then average ifs, and so on. Now, why is it that you are getting an error? Like I said, you may not get an error in SUMIF function or average if function, but you might get this error while working with SUMIFs function. Why? While working with SUMIFs and average ifs, you're giving multiple criteria as discussed in one of our earlier videos. So let's say this is your first criteria and you select these many records over here. And if you have another criteria for which you have selected these many records. So there is a disparity in the number of records being selected, and hence it gives you a hash value error. So whenever you use these functions, ensure that you have the same number of records being selected for each of the criteria. That's the criteria range that I'm referring to. Okay, the range should be of the same length, or it should cover the same number of columns or rows. Only then it will work. Otherwise, it might give you a hash value error. Now, moving on, we also have the hash NA error, and this is not always an error, but it's just saying that whatever you're looking for is not available, hence your criteria is not applicable. You will generally come across this error when you're working with VLOOKUPs and HLOOKUPs. For now, this is the thing. Div 0, you need, in case if the div 0 is obvious and you cannot escape out of it, then use the if error function and it relieves you out of it. Hash ref error, ensure that, or be careful about what you are deleting and what are the repercussions of deleting that particular cell or the worksheet. Hash value error is generally associated with the value format or the cell formatting. If it is a non-number or a non-date or time format and you are using it any form of mathematical or arithmetic calculations, it will give you an error. Okay, and apart from that, in certain functions like SUMIF and average ifs, you have a disparity in the range selected. For example, here I have selected 5, here we are selecting 4 instead of 5, you will get a hash value error in return.